Welcome to From East to West, Creative Learnings from Lockdown. I'm Janet Hull, Chair of UK Advertising Export Group and Director of Marketing Strategy at the IPA, and I'm your host for this session. And I'm delighted to be joined in our virtual studio by two of the world's most celebrated advertising creatives. From the East, Bill Yom, Head of Creative, Chief Creative Officer of Volkswagen Powerhouse at Cheil Worldwide. Cheil is headquartered in South Korea, but Bill is currently based in their dynamic Beijing office. Last year, Bill was proud to be the first ever Cannes Lion Jury Innovation President from South Korea. He's also on the jury circuit at Spikes Asia and Dubai Links. And from the West, we have Richard Brim, Chief Creative Officer of adam&eve DDB and adam&eve New York City, overseeing the group's entire creative output based in London. Under him, the agency has won Cannes Agency of the Year twice and now Cannes Agency of the Decade. He was named Campaign's Creative of the Year in 2019. We've invited each of them to reflect on their experience of lockdown and to share with us their top 3 creative learnings. So let's start with Bill. What's the Beijing view, Bill? The view from the East. What's it been like to work as a creative under COVID-19?
Hi, Janet. Thank you for having me here. It's a big honor and opportunity here to speak with you guys, with you, Richard, from UK. And I'm really happy to represent as one of the creators from Asia, from China at this stage, to share my learnings and my experiences since this whole COVID situation has started this year. That being said, actually, there are some key learnings I personally experienced with my team. Is, for example, that creativity is all about human beings, human interaction, especially when it comes to the brainstorming process or even the execution process. I think I never appreciated to being together with people at one place to create ideas, for example. That's something what I really missed under the circumstances of lockdowns. I also believe that the learning of having a home office was such a dream for a lot of people, but I guess for us creative people, I think it's not working at all. I learned that creativity is also the power of adjusting yourself in every kind of situation you are, and I believe that's the beauty of our job.
Thanks, Bill. And now over to you, Richard. What's the London view? The view from the West. What's your first learning?
My first learning about working in these crazy times was at the beginning. It was really exciting, and it was what was exciting about it was the unknown and how are we going to solve nothing. Everything wasn't stopping, and how are we going to solve problems within the context of this new way of working. And it's been a bit of like a roller coaster. Some days are really good and some days are really bad. I think the thing I'm missing the most, though, is these webinars are great and Zooms are great. And I think it will change moving forward. But creativity is a collision process. And I'm really missing, and I in particular, my sort of energy, my nervous energy of hearing an idea and bouncing around the agency, talking to people about it and telling people about it. I really miss that. I miss the coffee, the going to get a coffee and having a chat, and I miss 3D people because I think getting in a room and just throwing ideas around is kind of where the magic happens. And whilst we're trying to emulate it as much as we physically can in this space, I think creativity is a collision process, and what I mean by that is you just need to sort of let things sort of hang and have uncomfortable silences, and whereas Zooms don't allow for that. I just want to be with everybody in the department, everybody in the agency, just in a room bouncing ideas around, because I think that's where the good stuff happens, and you can only do that so much on Zoom.
That's really interesting, Rich, to hear. So it's clear that coming out of lockdown, the creative departments both in Beijing and in London, are going to be some of the first who want to get back to the office because, as you say, that 3D experience is really important, the collision between people.
Yeah, and we've been talking about ways of doing it. Whether it's I go and meet specific teams, and I spend my day in my car bouncing around London and having sort of social. The weather's very nice. Well, it turned today, but the weather's been very nice here. So social distancing park meetings. Whether we do something like that, or we're just trying to get that sort of friction with people again, and that togetherness. I think because Zooms are great, and for many things, it's really taught us new ways to work. But there is that those things I'm missing. The sort of going for a coffee and talking to somebody, then bouncing into somebody else and talking to somebody else. They're the bits that I'm really struggling with at the moment.
So the first learning from both of you really is that one around the human factor within the creative department, that actually sparking off each other is essential. But how has it been for both of you when it comes to working with brands and clients? What's that been like in lockdown?
We are now creating a big brand campaign for our biggest client here, for a car brand. And everything is not changing every day, but we are preparing for changes for every week because of the situation. That means we are creating ideas, or basically creating ideas which are so flexible and open that we are not limiting ourselves in killing an idea because it's just limited to one kind of location or whatever it is. Saying we are also getting more and more into digital channels or possibilities to connect innovative technology with an impact so that people can engage brands at this stage. That means also that brands understand at this point actually also that they have to be more innovative and even more digital driven than they did before. So saying like we are not only using TVC spot anymore, one key visuals, we're also thinking about really a holistic way of how do we approach those people in a smart and especially humanized way to deliver our message. I think that being said, it's also what we felt is that brands are also really, how can I say it? It's really important that they also understand that their messaging has to have a relevance. So saying like we are really looking into the consumer psychologically parts and see what actually makes sense to message at this stage. Is it the right message at this stage? Are we not getting into any kind of issues that we are hurting people with the feelings and so on? So saying overall, it's getting more and more humanized and really, really, how can I say, honest and true, if this makes sense.
Thanks, Bill. What about you, Rich? What's your experience been?
I think, to be honest with you, it's a very similar problem. I think we are better with our clients again when we are in one room solving problems, and when we're and we whilst again Zooms are great. I just still prefer to present in person and to talk in person, but beyond that, I think what's been really interesting for me is being, because nobody knew how to deal with this, and everybody was all of a sudden, nobody had this emergency plan in place. So what happened was guards came down all over the place, and conversations were had, and there was a vulnerability which I really enjoyed, and I think our clients did as well, where it was okay. Well, we don't know how we're going to answer this. We don't know how we're going to do this. Help us, and the dialogue became wider, and which I really enjoyed, and which I really, when we work well with clients, is when we have a wide dialogue. And what I mean by that is, it's not just make us an advert. It's every single step of the process, from how people talk in store to the what the CEO says when he stands up and addresses the company, and I think everything in between, and this time has been very much about that. So how do when we don't have what is normal to us, like a store or a showroom, or how do we still engage customers? And what messages do we go out with as a company? And what is that thing that our CEO stands up and says that we're committed to or doing in this period? And being part of those conversations in a more open forum has really, I've loved that. Absolutely love that.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because by being able to enter into that wide dialogue, actually the relationship is becoming much more of a sort of business partnership. In a way, you're helping problem solve in difficult times.
Which I think it has to be, and that was always they're always the parts of the side of the job that I really enjoy the most. Which is when we're all sat around the kitchen table trying to solve the bigger problem rather than just here's an ad that will maybe solve a little bit of the problem. You want to be sort of sleeves rolled up. Working through the nitty, like the some of the trickier stuff as well. So I've really enjoyed that. I have really enjoyed that, and I'm hoping it doesn't go back. That because it is that vulnerability of conversation. Because when this first happened, nobody knew what was happening, as I said, and so all the guards came down a lot more, and you worked across departments as well. You find yourself in meeting with PR people and all the different departments were desperately trying to find, and this was across the board in many clients, desperately trying to find solutions and ways through this, and that I really enjoyed that, and I think the creative department really enjoyed that.
So it's almost like there's been a shift in culture, and if we could just maintain that, we would come out of COVID better for it.
Definitely, I think. There's things that we need to. The conversations when it first happened, when it was still kind of exciting and it was still quite novel, was like, this is changing everything. The way we work in offices is completely gone. And then the Rightmove, which is a local estate agent here, saw a spike in people looking to move to the country because the new way of working is coming. And whilst I think there will be an element of that, and we're not planning to go back anytime soon to as we were, and it will be staggered. And whilst I think there's elements of that, I think we just need to take the best bits from this. We need to cherry pick the best bits and cherry pick the best bits of the way it was and form a new normal.
So that's really interesting, Rich, to see how culture has changed between clients and agencies, and how working across departments has become easier, and with other agencies has become easier. Wouldn't it be great if we could keep some of that as we come out of the lockdown and make that a permanent feature of the way we do business, because it's so much needed in an ever-changing world. I'm just thinking now, we've talked about what it's like in the office, what it's like working with clients. What about our end consumer? How has advertising changed to allow for the fact that people are experiencing lockdown? Bill, could we ask you first? What's been happening in Beijing?
We have learned here is that creativity has no limitations. That's the beauty of our job, that we can think everywhere where we are, though it's harder to communicate via video calls and all this stuff. But we've all realized that we have the power to change something, right? So that we can create relevance with a nice idea to cheer people, to motivate people, whatever brand it is. So actually, that's also the power of us creative people in, for example, in my team, that we figured out, hey, it's not only about creating a piece of advertising, it's also about to motivate people under those kind of circumstances. It's not the best circumstances, I would say, to be limited in your daily life, to go out and have fun, whatever it is, but it also gives us actually the opportunity to cheer up people, as I mentioned. So, and I think that's actually something really beautiful, to make people happy again, to cheer up each other. So yeah, because we are all locked down, we all saw each other for several weeks, not in person. So I can tell it's it was a barrier for everyone, and I think everyone was really happy to be back at the office. And now we are just waiting that we are getting over this whole thing in the nearest future, hopefully.
Thanks, Bill. And is that the same for you, Rich?
Yeah, it's a very strange question, this, because I don't think we actually know yet. I think we know, we've seen consumer behavior change because it's been forced to, from physical to I mean, digital's played a massive part in how people are shopping, and what's amazing is seeing the direct to consumer businesses and some of the ways so how restaurants have reacted to the crisis and supplying, almost restaurants becoming supermarkets, opening up their supply chain. And so what I've seen from brands and companies and people reacting has been really interesting. How we talk to consumers, I think, well, there was the whole wave of every brand felt that they needed to say, we're in it together. Which I think at the beginning was quite powerful when Facebook came out with the Kate Tempest spot they did, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. But then it just became a parody of itself, that we're going to show colleagues sat behind screens, panning from one colleague to another, panning from one supermarket worker to and we're all in this together. And that soon became, everybody felt like they needed to do that. And we went through that and we got through that. Towards the end, it became a bit disingenuous. But I think if you look at how we've reacted to these times in the past, so if you look at the after World War II, Hollywood saw a massive spike in humor and lightheartedness. There was a real sort of renaissance of comedy, and I think that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that everything just becomes a little bit more nonsense and a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit more I don't know, just freer. Because I think we live in a very purpose-led world, and which is good, very, very good. But I think we need to look at how we do that and make it not feel so heavy.
That's really interesting. We were talking about a lighter touch, a sort of crazy feel, actually getting back to feeling human as opposed to feeling trapped.
Yeah, I think that's a really that's a far more eloquently put than I did. But no, I think if you look at I was watching an amazing documentary the other week about Ella Fitzgerald, and she was born out of the Great Depression and into this world where people just wanted lightness and frivolity and joy, and I think as I said, if you look through history at how we've come out of hardships, that's always been the way, and I'm praying that's the way it goes, because I think we do need to be a bit more joyful, a bit more silly, a bit more human.
What a lovely way to end.
I know that's certainly what I'm looking for in work.
Yeah, thank you so much. So thank you, both of you, for sharing with us today. Bill in Beijing and Rich in London, East and West, your 3 key learnings coming out of lockdown from the creative supremos in our advertising world. It's been fascinating to hear those 3 different views based on what it's been like not to be in the office and the desire to get back to that wonderful spark of community. The extra freedom that you've had in opening bigger conversations with clients, and how rich that could be if we could continue it. And lastly, the opportunity for us to have that lightness of touch in our advertising work going forward, which just allows people to come out of the hard COVID crisis time and put joy back into their way of life, and feel that advertising can entertain them and engage them. It just goes to show how similar our worlds are. The same things are coming through from Beijing and London, and endorses yet again how global the advertising market is and how important it is that the UK stays open for global business and a hub for creative industries and creative excellence to the world. That's what UK Advertising Export Group is all about. UK advertising made global. Thanks for listening.